Hey, I wanted to come on here and share a quick video about the difference between a spiritual awakening and enlightenment. I think it's really important for people to understand this because there is a big difference. So there are a lot of people that are looking for enlightenment and they haven't even had their spiritual awakening yet. And so what happens sometimes is we get disappointed because we haven't actually experienced this thing. First, I think it's really important for people to understand that there is a big difference between a spiritual awakening and enlightenment. And as mentioned before, there are a lot of people who are disappointed because they haven't experienced a sense of enlightenment, but they haven't even had their spiritual awakening yet. And I know that can be really disappointing, but it takes time. And if in reality you don't seem to understand this distinction yet, then chances of you having a spiritual awakening or even enlightenment are going to be very, very, very slim. So, first of all, enlightenment is pure consciousness. So if you are looking for enlightenment, it's going to be very difficult to obtain or achieve without having gone through a spiritual awakening. And a spiritual awakening is no joke. Enlightenment is pure consciousness. It is the sense of there is no separation. There is no identity. There is no ego. All is one. There is only love, whether you want to call it a bliss or a heaven, there is only one. This is where everything feels just right. It literally feels like bliss. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, first off, you're going to need to wake up from the dream. Yes. What dream is that, you are asking me? Well, you're going to have to wake up from the dream that you are separate from God, from source, from spirit, that you are different from other people, that you are different from nature, from animals. This is part of our spiritual awakening. When you begin to see yourself as different from the Creator, from source, from spirit, from God, however you wish to call the vast energy that is the universal intelligence, when you begin to or continue to believe that you are separate from that entity and you are separate from each and every individual human being or animals in nature, then you are not in a place of a spiritual awakening or on the way to enlightenment yet. You are literally still working from ego. And this is very hard as humans, because if we get rid of all of our ego, we literally cease to exist. So for me, I find I have immense understanding of the oneness of nature and animals and a connection to spirit, God, source, the divine. But I am still in the process of understanding humanity as one. That is my biggest and last part of my own awakening. So back to ego. Ego is an illusion. And the only way through ego is to have a spiritual awakening. But us humans, without our ego, as mentioned, we would cease to exist. So there will always be a little element of ego. However, the way out of ego, the way out of this illusion, is through having a spiritual awakening. Well, what is a spiritual awakening? A spiritual awakening is none other than the simple realization, and it's not so simple, but a realization of who you really are. And that sounds a lot easier than when it's happening. When you see yourself as the true nature of who you really are, and you see yourself as one with God and one with source, the creator, the divine, and one with nature and one with animals and one with humanity, then you have entered into a spiritual awakening. But it is not all bliss, because when you begin to see yourself as one with God, with the universal intelligence, with nature and with animals, your life looks very, very different. Your reality shifts. The veil is lifted and nothing makes sense anymore. And the reality you are living, which may even be very well the same life you are living, does not look the same at all. Your life just looks completely different. And this is because you have woken up from the dream that we are all different, that God is different, that animals are different, that nature is different than ourselves, but we are all connected. And more so than being all connected, we are all one. We all come from the Creator. We all carry the same matter in us. And when you start noticing that, there is a lot of synchronization that happens, and you feel the energy shifting. But again, you may be in the same life that you have, but it looks completely different. And that is where things get very difficult. Your life will begin looking completely new, because it's almost as though you've been reborn and you are seeing the world through new eyes. The veil has lifted, your consciousness has expanded, and you are now seeing everything differently. And once you start doing the work, which takes time, by the way, it doesn't happen overnight. It could happen in a day, it could happen in a month, it could happen in weeks, it could happen in months, it could happen in years. For some people, the spiritual awakening is a quick moment. For others, it takes a very long time. But when you wake from that deep, deep sleep, then you start seeing these glimpses of heaven, of connection, of oneness. I'm getting emotional. And even the glimpses themselves can last 10 minutes, a few days, weeks, hours. And these glimpses are going to continue happening until you have reached a certain state of consciousness, which at some point will be enlightenment. And that may never happen. So somebody just asked me the other day how long it takes for me to fall asleep. And I fall asleep pretty easily, but there are some nights where I don't fall asleep so easily. And then they asked me, well, when you do finally fall asleep, how long did it take you? And I feel like for those people who lie awake and then they can't fall asleep, and then they finally fall asleep and you can't remember how long it took you to fall asleep, there isn't really one fits all when it comes to sleep. And that's how awakening is. That's literally how awakening is. Do you go to bed and fall asleep right away, or do you lie awake and stare at the ceiling? So before you think that you're going to miss enlightenment or you're going to miss a spiritual awakening, you are not going to miss it, because when it hits you, it is going to hit you like a ton of bricks or a truck. And the only way it's going to hit you is you've got to wake up from the dream. And that's not easy. And you've got to live from that place. And that is not easy. And after you've done that enough times, then you will start experiencing these glimpses of heaven. And eventually that may be someday, tomorrow, next year, and it might not happen at all, as mentioned. I do not know if I will ever reach enlightenment in this lifetime, but I am definitely awakened, and it is a journey that is continuous. But hopefully soon you do find pure consciousness. I hope we all do, because that's how we are going to heal our planet and raise the vibration of Earth. I hope that helps somebody.